And I just was trying to say, so basically I wasn't even really recusing her, I was just trying to say I don't want her, after all. And so then she freaked out, and then everybody in the courthouse freaked out. I remember Thomas Caballero looked very happy about it, and he got a cigar out to sort of celebrate, because then I was being pulled and coerced into accepting her anyway. I think is what happened. I think that I was forced to accept her anyway, and then he said, well, if you want to file something, you'll have to file something. So Thomas Caballero, who worked for the Attorney General, got a cigar out and pretended to be smoking it. And Judge Hotchkiss was very happy that it was going to be Julie, because he already could count on her dirty dealing, and her husband to do dirty dealing with him. And Marianne McIntosh was thrilled, because it was all going to work in her favor. The only face that I really remember looking changed in any way and worried when I said I didn't want her was Michelle Erickson. Michelle Erickson looked panicked. I mean, panicked. And I thought, why is Michelle Erickson, of all these people, having the strongest reaction to my saying I don't want her to be my lawyer? And my saying that there's a conflict of interest. And I was forced to have her sign up anyway, and then she hated me. She basically tried to punish me from that point forward. I was then told that there would be no increased visits, and I basically had to go through the motions of trying to get a lawyer or a psychological evaluation signed up or whatever. And she did something else that was really against me. She gave a point to the state, and I knew that she was giving a point to the state by her argument. And I tried to avoid that, but she gave a point to them anyway. And that's when I knew, okay, she just gave a point to the state. There's no denying that. I know. Everyone knows. And her husband stole my evidence from me. And I've been hearing really conflicting things about what kind of person she is. And what kind of a lawyer, too. On top of the fact that she was right in front of me, hiking up her attorney's fees to more than what her hours were. And I should say too, when I had met her the one time when she was in the courthouse defending that one woman who's disabled, I remember that even that disabled woman, she kind of seemed to me to not like me. But she was disabled. So I had the impression that she was a thinking woman, that she was thinking just fine, but she was physically disabled. And I remember wondering why possibly she didn't like me, or her family, or whoever was there didn't like me, when I, had nothing to do with their case or anything. But at any rate, I was then really kind of done for. And basically nothing was, I would then had my visits decreased instead of increased. I was promised and told that my visits would be increased, but as soon as they stole my memory cards from me, and as soon as she knew that I knew there was a conflict of interest, they basically started working against me. And I fired her, and then the judge said, if you fire her, you can't have anybody else. So basically, then he wasn't allowing me to have any other lawyer, even though I said there's a conflict of interest. And basically, what I stated is, I said her honesty. And I said in court that she had just committed fraud and asked for money that was way in excess of what she had actually done. That was grounds enough to not have her as my lawyer, and I should have been provided the opportunity to have somebody else. And that's the information that I gave. I didn't want to say at that point, her husband also stole evidence from me, because I didn't want to give him too much information about what I did or didn't know, because I thought I might find out more. And what they didn't know was, if I said there's a conflict of interest, they didn't know how much I knew about that conflict of interest at that point. And they all did look very nervous. And they should have looked nervous. And I remember that her husband drove like crazy all the way up to that courthouse for that hearing. Actually, it was the next hearing, I think it was. He drove like crazy, basically like Mark, the truck driver, knowing that corners and fast driving like that and going around corners really fast was going to really scare me. He did that to me. There was no reason why he had to get the car to tilt so much back and forth on the freeway, around corners, and race like that. And he did that all the way up there, and he drove that way all the way back, even though I repeatedly asked him, I said, could you please drive slower, please? I've been in a car accident in the past, and it really makes me nervous. And he basically made a point of driving fast. And at that same time, after that hearing, when I basically lost more rights to my son, about 3 different helicopters were flying overhead as he raced out. It was like a military. There was a U.S. military helicopter, and there was a big blue and white helicopter, which I didn't know what that was supposed to represent. I thought, what is that, like supposed to represent Israel's colors or something? I didn't know why somebody was flying this big blue and white helicopter with the military helicopter following our car, that car. And I never said anything to them once about, you stole, or asked them or confronted them. I was scared of him. And then while I was before he did that to me, they tried to set me up with another man. I mean, introduced me to some guy who was U.S. military again, maybe hoping that I would hang out with him or do something with him. And I wasn't interested. I said, I'm not dating. I wouldn't even go out with him. And Julie Anderson and her husband, even though they were military connected, they were also connected to some mafia, to like Mexican gangsters, because she defended a lot of them in criminal court, and I think she did a decent job for some of the guys who were criminals. She did some things for them, so they had a few people who were supporters of them, but she did many more favors for the state. And Judge Hotchkiss really liked her, and he kept trying to convince me to do it. He said, I have full confidence in Julie. Julie's a great lawyer. He was thrilled with the idea of having Julie as lawyer, because she was going to do whatever he wanted. They would all sink my ship together. And basically I had to recuse her, because the very next thing that she did is, in the very next hearing, the one where her husband was driving like crazy all the way there and all the way back, the very next thing that she did was she did a major, she did a huge thing for the state. And I can't remember right now off the top of my head what it was, but she gave them a major point and kind of sunk my ship. She basically gave the state the move that they needed. I mean, if you're thinking of chess or checkers or whatever, she gave them the move that they needed to take the queen or the king or whatever. all they had to do is, she needed to do one thing for them, and I already knew how it was going to benefit the state and how it would harm me and my son in our case. And right after she did that, then I kept thinking maybe something would turn up. I'd find out more about why they were stealing from me or who they worked with. The only thing I found out was that she had taken another case. She tried to make it sound like she was a real defender of people against the United States or the military, but they worked with them, because she showed me some sort of NIH case, National Institute of Health case, that she had taken for somebody, and she said they killed this man. She said they told him that he agreed to be used for research, but what he didn't know is that he was going to be, that the research was to find out how strong of technology could be used against him, or a medication could he receive before he died. That was the entire research program. So she was showing me, she made this point of how she was a big defender of civil rights. And she showed me this case and said that it was for this man who had been targeted by National Institute of Health, which is a federal government agency. They do a lot of research in Bethesda, Maryland. And she was trying to make it sound like she was the human defender, and he had died. And so I think what she was doing, believe he had died, so she was suing on his family's behalf. Either that or he almost died, and what they found out was that the research program was supposedly to kill him and find out how much it took to kill him, rather than just some kind of a normal research program. So she was showing me this thing and then telling me how she said to me, she said they took out evidence from the record. She said they concealed evidence from his medical history, and they didn't give me all of the information that they needed. And she's telling me this while her husband had stolen my memory cards from me. And I remember there was a photograph of her standing in front of the White House in a blue dress. I believe it was a blue dress. Solid blue. Standing in front of the White House, I think. My memory might be wrong. And she had some connections to Washington, D.C. And her business card said something like, her slogan for her business cards were blue and white, if I'm correct, and they said, building bridges, something like that. Something about building bridges for the community, or building bridges. Her entire business card is about building bridges. You know, giving you access to justice through a bridge. And I know that they had a private investigator working for them that was connected to Israel. Because he told me he was connected to Israel, and he was telling me that Mossad has the best intel in the world.